I'm going to try and keep it really real for this because this is not an easy video to film. Hello, gorgeous human. I'm Sasha. I just got this mic, so I'm usually not using this, so now I'm used to doing this. So first of all, we noticed that you have a book. Can you tell us a little bit about this book?
Called Not That Bad, Dispatches from Rape Culture. It's edited by Roxanne Gay, and it's kind of an anthology of essays, most of which are personal, written by victims of sexual assault or rape, or those who have come in contact with it in other ways. Yeah.
Are all the victims women?
Nope.
There's men as well?
Yes.
Okay, I think that's fair, because if you're, the women are being, well, everybody's being molested, and I'm against all molestation of any type. Unless it's voluntary and it's in some kind of kinky situation where people want that, then it's okay. So let's start with a fun one right before we get into the. Well, actually, you know what? Fuck it, we're already talking about this. So are you a feminist?
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
I think it's kind of a charged word, but in general, just equality for the sexes, equality between men and women and those of other genders and those of neither gender. Kind of working to help marginalized communities.
Yeah, I also feel, sometimes I feel like that this whole man versus woman thing, it's really just another distraction. They blow it up in the media so that actually we're all fighting each other, black versus white, man versus woman, everything, so that then they just go ahead and get away with it they want to, taxing people more, bombing people, more money for the military-industrial complex. So do you think maybe it's all just being created? Oh, hello, apparently somebody's showing up. Hello! That's right. It's very excited. You want to watch? You can hang out, and we can do you next. That's not something I thought I'd say to a feminist. We can do you next, but I meant it in a different context. All right. So do you think there might be that element in general that they're trying to separate men and women, turn us against each other?
Who?
The powers that be.
So men.
I wouldn't say men. I think there are greater forces than just dudes in the world running the show. Who runs the central banks?
Do you know what percentage of Congress, what percentage of our presidents have been women?
Probably not very many.
None. None of our presidents have been women.
When I say powers that be, I'm talking about certain higher level groups that are running the show. But we don't have to get into all that stuff now. But generally, do you think there might be some that they are trying to get us all fighting each other, so that we ignore the bigger picture?
I don't think I quite understand. I think it's a very vague question.
I think it's a pretty good question, but we can skip that question.
Do some people profit off of turning people against each other? Is that kind of the?
Absolutely. Well, yes. I mean, the people running they're profiting a lot.
Yeah. Then I think that happens.
It's very sneaky. Okay. So these days, there's lots of different type of because I think feminism is different than what it was, let's say, 50 years ago, right? And there are some people that think that now it's getting out of control in some ways, that things are getting a little bit. So what would you say about are there any parts of feminism? Obviously, everyone would say we want men and women to be treated equally, but do you see anything happening these days that maybe isn't necessarily good for in this feminist movement for anyone concerned?
I think it's interesting because I think a recent major part of feminism has been the Me Too movement. And I have seen more people asking that question and asking, has the Me Too movement gone too far? And expressing concern for what happens if men are falsely accused, what happens if anyone's falsely accused, what happens when, things other than just, violent, weaponized rape are being considered, and expressing, has this gone too far, and not the rampant sexual assault in every single aspect of every single community is a problem, and we should be kind of working to solve that. It's more like, oh, this has gone too far, and I'm like, has it really?
Well, I think it's damaging men, actually, because I've met men now that are so terrified of being seen as a rapist. Like I know guys, literally, they've been single for years. I'm like, why don't you go out and meet some girls? Oh no, I can't do that. What do you mean you can't do that? No, I can't talk to women. They're literally afraid to go and talk to women. This is not good.
Just not rape people.
Well, these aren't rapists I'm talking. These are like normal dudes, but they're still afraid.
Well, normal dudes are rapists.
You think normal dudes are rapists?
Oh, absolutely. Really nice ones that you're friends with.
You mean potential rapists?
No, rapists. Rapists are generally very nice, very fun, great to be around, great personalities. Not always asshole jock, not always, power hungry monsters. It's a lot of guys who are like super fun.
But if you've not raped someone, then you're not a rapist.
No. So,
I've never raped anyone, so.
So the solution to your friend's problems is to just not rape people, and they won't be rapists.
But hang on a minute. But you just called someone a rapist who's a theoretical person who, as far as I know, hasn't raped anyone. How does that work?
No, I'm saying that just because your friends are cool dudes doesn't mean that you can know for sure that they're not rapists. I think a lot of my rapist friends would not think that he's a rapist and would not believe that he's a rapist.
So you have friends that are known rapists?
I have friends that are non-rapists?
No, that are known rapists.
That are known rapists, yes.
So they've definitely raped someone?
Yes.
And you're still friends with them?
Not by choice.
Wow, if I knew someone who had raped someone, I would not want to be friends with them. I'd be like, why are you talking to me?
So there's like a family friend that I know, and he basically told me that he raped someone. And then it's like, where do you go from there? Like in your daily social interactions, it is almost impossible. Guys in class, friends of friends. I don't generally go around and like seek camaraderie with rapists.
No shit, that would be super weird. What kind of friends do you like to have? Rapists? That would be a really weird answer.
It would, but I think a lot of people have a lot of friends that are rapists.
So where do you get why do you think that?
Because rapists have a lot of friends. They're really nice. They're really fun people. It's not generally isolated, lone wolf type of character.
You make it sound like most dudes are rapists. I mean, out of 10 dudes, how many do you think are a rapist?
Out of 10 women, how many have been raped?
That's a great question. What do you think?
Well, I know on college campuses, they say 1 in 5, but they also say that, 70% of rapes go unreported. And then they say that, how do you even get that statistic? Because so many people don't realize they've been raped till 15 years later. And then you have, on top of that, if you have 1 in 5, which is a very generous statistic in my experience with my friends, it's 3 in 5, 4 in 5, if not 5 in 5.
Wow. So you think more than 50% of women have been raped?
Young girls on college campuses, in my experience talking to them, that has been the case statistically. But someone's doing that. Someone is committing these rapes. It's not just a thing that happens when someone is by themselves. And so I think a lot of rapists are repeat offenders. So not necessarily if 1 in 5 women are raped, that doesn't necessarily mean that 1 in 5 men are rapists. But there do have to be...
That's true. That could be some really busy rapists out there. They're working overtime, full-time shifts, trading out with their buddy, getting maybe just sleeping 2-3 hours a night and then just raping the whole other time. That's a good point, actually. That never occurred to me because, you know what I mean? Like one person could have raped four girls, which is yeah, that's fucked up, but it didn't actually occur to me.
Yeah.
Now, this whole thing, you brought something up, which is interesting. Like you said, people are coming out, right, and saying, oh, well, 10 years ago I was raped. Something bothers me about that. You know what I mean? Because if you get raped, like sex against your will, you're gonna fucking report. Why would you wait 10 years to report that?
Have you been raped?
No.
Okay. Do you have trauma in your past?
Everyone has trauma. Me certainly.
Trauma in their past. I think very specifically with sexual trauma, the easiest thing to do is to repress it entirely. And that is how you survive. Because you hear these stories and you think, how did you survive? And violation of your body in a very intimate way, the way that you survive while it's happening is disassociation. It's not fight or flight, it's fight or flight or freeze. And that's what you do in situations of sexual violence, is you freeze, you don't fight back. And so you generally kind of leave your body. You're not really there. Your body's there, but you're not. And that tends to become a coping mechanism in the aftermath. And I have heard from so many survivors or victims, I personally think that conversation is interesting, but that's a tangent, have said that the aftermath of rape or the aftermath of sexual assault, whether that's going to the hospital to get a rape kit, whether it's telling their parents, whether it's telling their future partners, whether it's, seeing the guy in class, whether it's seeing the guy, this picture, seeing the guy nominated for Supreme Court, those things and conversations like this can be just as traumatizing because you can't escape it and because it brings up things from your past that you don't know how to deal with, and so you just leave your body again. So, you have 10 years where you've been repressing this sort of trauma, and then all of a sudden you hear something, or you think something, or you read something, or you see something, and it all comes back. And repressing trauma isn't sustainable. It's a coping mechanism. It's the only way to survive sometimes, but it doesn't last. So then 10 years later, when it does come up, what do you do with that? What do you do with the knowledge that someone who caused you unfathomable amounts of pain and is likely doing the same thing to other people? There are statistics, most rapists are repeat offenders. What do you do with that knowledge? How can you keep yourself from coming forward? How can you keep yourself silent without taking responsibility for the harm that that person is likely doing to others?
That's a really good point you make, because I'm 39, and I had a really traumatic childhood, like brutal, and I've just been healing now. I mean, literally, I've done primal therapy and all these things. So, yeah, so, you know, and my body is still holding on to trauma. I've always been dealing with it, and it can take a lifetime, actually. What about those situations? Because sometimes it's been happening in the news. You know, because, you know, especially like you mentioned, colleges, you know, it's got a kind of a hookup culture. So there's lots of situations where, you know, a guy and a girl, they have a couple of drinks, they have sex, and the girl's having a great, you know, doesn't have a problem with it. But then weeks or months later, she goes, actually, you know, I don't know. Maybe I wasn't okay with that. You know what I mean? But you were okay with it for a few weeks. So how do we, like, is that rape? If a girl suddenly goes, I don't know, maybe he pressured me a little bit, or maybe one of a million things, but she had a great time. And then months later she goes, actually, you know what? No, maybe I wasn't okay with that experience.
I think because of the way that women are socialized, it takes so much to come to a point where you are able to say what happened wasn't okay. And it takes so much second guessing and so much doubt and so much saying to your friends, okay, but didn't I kind of ask for it? Didn't I kind of want it? Wasn't this not assault? Wasn't this not rape? Like, begging to like justify that this thing didn't happen. And what you're talking about is far more rare, because it's not something that people generally want to do. They don't want to invent trauma out of nowhere. They don't want to invent pain. They don't want to cause some random dude who they had bad sex with to like confront, like, oh, maybe he's a rapist. So I think it's a lot more rare than it is common. And it's not as much a matter of concern as what do we do about the cases where it actually was rape.
Yeah, that's a fair point. So more of like a, well, yeah. So anything in general you would just say about how do we fix this?
I wish I knew, but I think it takes a serious look at unraveling centuries of established thought and theory that has informed every single institution in our world. And I'm not saying tear it all down, but I just think there needs to be a lot of listening, a lot of reading books like this, a lot of realizing that you don't know everything. There is so much that I don't know. And I don't know how to fix this, but I do know that something is broken, and that a lot of people are broken, and that a lot of people care more about issues that aren't particularly relevant. Like, what about the false cases? You know, I just think that that's not where our focus needs to be, because that's not where the problem is. That's not what's happening. That's 2 out of every 100 who's focusing on the 98.
Here's I think a good question that would help a lot of guys out there, actually. Do you date dudes, or you're something else? Okay, figured. Well, I assumed. I mean, call me bold. But generally, and maybe yeah, I'm still curious, because I've seen feedback that men are actually genuinely afraid to come up to girls and just give them a compliment, say, hey, you're beautiful, you know, can I take you on a date, whatever. So, but you probably have lots of straight friends too, right? So just as yeah, so just in general though, what you know, say a guy sees a woman, he's attracted to her. What behavior would you say is cool, and what would you say to guys? Hey, don't do that. That's not cool.
I think the tried and true, can't go wrong, is to take something that, you know, if you're talking specifically about a guy complimenting girls, one, that she has control over, that she chose, that was an active choice. And 2, paired with an adjective that you would use to describe one of your guy friends. So, like, you know, if you think she looks really great, say, like, your boots are cool, because she picked those out, she put them on, she wanted them, and cool doesn't make her feel at all frightened or afraid or weird, because I'm not sure that it's possible to, at least for me personally, because I'm so much more reactive to this type of thing. I don't want to know if a guy thinks I'm beautiful. I don't fucking care. Like,
What if a girl thinks you're beautiful?
different story. Different story. But I'm not afraid of girls. I haven't been traumatized by girls in the same way that I've been traumatized by men. And I'm not saying that girls don't traumatize other girls, but I am saying that, like, I have been catcalled more times than I can count in the past month and a half.
By men and women, or just men?
Exclusively by men. So I think men are the ones who need to be that much more careful giving compliments. And I also just don't know how many women have that fear.
So what if a guy just came up to a girl and said, "Hey, I just think I think you're really cute. What's your name?" Something like that. You think that's because it's not something she controls? You think that's not okay? You're beautiful. You're sexy. You're cute. Anything like that?
I think guys assume that women want to talk to them, and that's a lot of times not the case.
Some chicks, like the D, though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that they want to be constantly. I think guys just assume that every girl is like waiting for him to walk up and start a conversation with her. And a lot of straight girls just want to be left alone.
A lot of straight girls also complain that they only meet guys that are hammered when they go to bars and clubs, and guys never actually come up to them and be authentic, when they're sober.
Can't relate. I don't know of any girls who have made that complaint personally, but, maybe talk to them and ask them what they would want to happen, what their ideal situation would look like.
Do you prefer a woman, even let's say a woman who you find attractive is hitting on you? Do you want her to be sober and authentic, or like in some bar hammered off her face?
I don't know. I haven't really been to a bar. I don't have a fake, and I'm 20.
Okay, it's not your thing. Oh, I see. Interesting. Yeah, I'm Canadian, so it's weird for me to be like, oh, you you got to be 21. It's 18 for us, so. Okay, cool. And so last thing, can you name just anything that comes to your mind where you say women are just naturally better than men at?
Like biologically, or due to like social constructions?
Whatever comes to your mind, but that you genuinely think women are just better at.
Like, I think that's a tricky question because I think gender is so complicated and nuanced. And like, are we talking about sex, or are we talking about gender? And are we talking about, a certain society where people are raised a certain way? Or are we talking about...
Let's keep it simple. Let's just say sex. You're born with vagina. What would you be better at than men?
So exclusively biologically speaking. I think that's... I don't know. I don't know if it's possible to tell, because if you are born with a vagina, that shapes your entire life from that instant. So, like, in general, do people with vaginas tend to be more empathetic and less aggressive? I think statistically, yes.
I think so.
But I don't know that actually has anything to do with biologically being a woman. I think it has to do with the way that culture treats you when you are biologically a woman.
That's very interesting, actually. That's very interesting. Anything else come up when I say, women just naturally better at than men?
I mean... I just prefer girls in literally every possible way of speaking. And like, if I could go through life without interacting with men, that sounds like paradise.
That's painful. That's ouchie. You must have met some dudes and thought, oh, this is a really cool guy.
I am. Not particularly.
Why not?
Why not?
It's not to like.
I think a lot of the questions you ask are hurtful.
Really? Which ones?
Like the fact that, just going back to what I said, you seem to have more concern for men who are potential rapists or may potentially be accused of rape than women who have been raped.
Well, I'm against anyone being raped and anyone being accused falsely, and including men and women, and any injustice of any kind. I just love humans, and I'm a fan of human beings, and I want everyone to get along and be happy. That's really my agenda, to bring people together and not let things like I'm a woman or I'm a man be reason to treat other people like shit. You know what I mean? Because that's what's causing the problems, all this separation. That's why, actually, for me, the biggest question is, are we all being put against each other? It doesn't mean there aren't real problems. Of course, there's real problems, but is there a way we can? That's actually my goal, is to find ways we can love and understand each other and come together, so we can all be enjoy being on this beautiful planet. It's a really amazing place if we cooperate with each other and respect each other. That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of why I'm sitting here talking to you, even though it's really difficult to talk about these things, and even though I think we come from very different places, and I have a hard time figuring out how to articulate where I'm coming from to someone who has such a different background. But I think it's worth it to try, and it's worth it to, communicate with other people and think about these things and have hard conversations.
But I mean, being a man, and obviously, and I work with men. I've been a men's coach for many years, and so I think men are at this point being just kind of shat on. You know what I mean? And most guys are, I think, pretty good guys, right? Most guys. You can't. I mean, there's no way I believe most guys are rapists or even potential. Most guys are really sweet. Like, I would never ever rape someone. That's fucking it's ridiculous. It's absolutely never. I wouldn't hurt. I mean, literally, I don't even kill flies at this point. I literally wouldn't hurt a fly. I love humans. I go out of my way to help people all the time, and most guys I meet are really fucking nice guys. They just want to meet a nice girl and date and have a girlfriend and get married and have kids. I mean, most guys are just really sweet. That's the thing.
I think when you're saying, I read something the other day that I actually thought was really interesting. I think privilege is a very loaded and confusing word that's thrown around a lot, but putting it in the perspective, like me personally, I'm not straight, I'm not male, but I'm white. And so I was raised in kind of Midwestern Southern America. And I was raised with a lot of things that, as I got older, I learned that I don't really believe that. And I think if I were to go around saying, I love people, I seek to do good, I seek to care for people, that's great. But the way to do that takes a lot of humility, a lot of listening, a lot of self-awareness. And so rather than say I'm not rapist, or not rapist, racist, rather than say I'm not racist, approach it from the mindset of I don't want to be racist. And then when I hear from, my friends who are people of color, that it's really, really important for them that people learn how to pronounce their name, even if it's really hard. So then instead of me, just thinking that my friend won't care if I know how to say her last name, for me to listen and say oh, is this kind of a little bit racist because no one has ever mispronounced my name. And so I completely take that for granted. And so now I'm, YouTubing videos, try to learn how to pronounce the Spanish R so that I'll be able to say her name. And so it's more about what do you want to be? And it sounds like you want to not be sexist. You want to not hurt women. And that's how you think all guys are, or most guys are. Most of the men that you work with don't want to hurt women. And so it's not that they don't, or that they can't, or that they have never. And I think approaching it from I'm a good guy, I'm a good person, I don't hurt women. You don't want to, but maybe you do. And maybe you have to be willing to take that step of admitting that. What?
Admitting what?
Admitting that maybe you hurt women in ways that you don't realize.
Well, I think all of us hurt people, unless you're super conscious, enlightened being. Everyone's hurting people in ways they don't realize, but that doesn't mean that there's a potential of me becoming a rapist.
But are we talking about singularly rape, or are we talking about,
hurt is, I could say, hey lady, how's it going? And you'd be like, oh, the word lady's offense. So anyone can be offended at the smallest of things. So everyone's offending everybody, you could say.
I think that's a little bit irrelevant. That's a little bit just because.
Or are you talking specifically sexual assault? I mean, what are we talking about?
So you're saying that guys are good people who don't want to hurt women.
Overall, absolutely.
Okay, and I'm saying that it's possible to engage in behaviors that you don't realize are hurtful, and it's okay to admit, hey, maybe I don't know everything. Maybe I have caused harm in the past. Maybe I have assumed that my friends won't care if I don't know how to pronounce their name because nobody knows how to pronounce their name. But then for me to be able to take a step back and say, oh, that's hurtful.
Sure. But there's a huge difference between mispronouncing someone's name or being a bit rude and sexually assaulting a woman.
Yeah, but I think the culture of racism starts on this very small spectrum of things like mispronouncing people's names, and then gets up to things that are like really significant, like institutionalized racism and hate crimes and things like that. So it's like, for my part, rather than just absolve myself of responsibility from any of it, rather than just say, I'm not racist, I don't have anything to do with this.
Right. I'm trying not to be racist. That makes sense.
Yeah. So you're trying not to hurt women, and that takes a lot of, take a step back from the pride and the sense of not self-righteousness in a bad way, but just like the sense of like that you seem to think that you have a really strong sense of morality, and be like, yes, like I'm a good person, I seek to do good things, and be like, when have I not done that?
Of course, yeah, we've all. I mean, any self-aware human being would admit that they've hurt other beings before. But would you personally say that are you interested in healing the chasm I feel that you have between men? Do you want to have a better relationship with men overall?
I think that's a hard question because I'm so scared of men.
Why is that?
Lots of things, but like specifically trauma. Like I have been sexually assaulted, and there have been other things that weren't sexually assault, but that were just like really, really scary. And so now it's like this very like visceral, like undeniable, like lack of safety. And I think the impetus a lot of times is put on oppressed or marginalized or abused communities to be the ones to reconcile. And so people say like, oh, if you don't want to talk to men, then you're furthering the chasm. But I'm like, I'm not sure that it is my responsibility to heal the hurt that was not caused at my hands. And that's not to say I'm not going to try, but I think it's hard because it's like, you have an advantage in a sense, and in terms of seeking to heal this divide.
Yep. I would just add that the more all of us humans heal ourselves, because we're all so connected, and on the highest level, I don't know if you're on the spiritual path, I certainly am, and I've had experiences where I've recognized actually we're all one consciousness, and these are just illusion bodies. So I think it's all of our responsibility to do the healing, and that's I think a big problem today is people are just really traumatized, and they just bring it into the world, and you see angry people screaming, and we need to heal. But anyway, what was your question?
So I just want to clarify, are all men rapists? You think that all men are rapists?
No.
Okay.
No, I think that women can be rapists and men can be rapists, and men can not be rapists but still hurt women.
And the other way around?
Yes. And still perpetuate a culture that marginalizes women in a way that women can't necessarily do to men.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. When I was filming that video, I was really in a state of shock talking to that girl, because I was just like blown away. And the reason I was blown away is because her reality of like men are rapists is so far from my reality. And frankly, I thought she'd just been brainwashed, programmed, traumatized to the point of just disassociation from what's actually happening on planet Earth, which is it's not just a bunch of dudes raping everybody. That was where I was at. And a big part of why I was there was because I work with men. I've been working with men for 10 years. Specifically, I was a pickup coach. I was teaching you guys how to pick up chicks. Now it's a little bit deeper than that. It's a lot deeper than that. But I've worked with a lot of men, hundreds in person, thousands if you include like seminars and events. And I know men. And the guys I've worked with over the years, they're great guys. They're fucked up, but they're great guys. Nice, sweet, wonderful, hardworking, innocent, some lacking confidence, some don't know how to flirt, some never had a father figure, some traumatized, some shy, some just care what people think. A lot of, things. But they're just good guys who just need help so they can meet and connect with women, okay? And they're not fucking raping anybody, man. They're not, like I said, possible a couple of them were. Yeah, maybe that's possible. Sure, of course. I don't know their history, but they're good guys, okay? And because I'm a good guy, right, and I treat people with respect, and I am a voluntarist, I don't force aggression or violence on people, it's hard for me to imagine that that's going on a large scale. It's hard for me. So for me, it was a real disconnect, and I was in shock. And you can see that in the video. I was like, I was really like, wow, this girl's fucked up. That's where I was at. And since, I've been thinking about this interview and my conclusion and what I want to say, and I'm in a different place now than I was then, because I've been talking to a lot of my female friends here in town. Some of them are older and wiser, and they're really amazing. There's some really amazing women in my life right now. And the reason that is because, I've been healing my trauma with the feminine that I had with my mother. I used to be angry. I used to be traumatized. I used to be fucking pissed off. Women didn't want to be around me either. But I've healed a lot of that, and I continue to heal that. So now I have a lot of really amazing female friends, which is great. And they've been sharing with me the reality that as a woman, it's always kind of in the back of your mind all the time, no matter what you're doing or where you're going and walking or whatever, that you got to be careful and look who's around, and you don't want to be going alone because you could be raped. And many of the women I've spoken to are all like, yep, that's what's up. It's kind of part of just being a woman. Got to be on guard all the time. And I honestly hadn't really considered that. I mean, I was aware of it logically, but really like feeling into the reality of like all the time. Like imagine, and again, I don't know what the stats are, but let's just pretend 1 in 4 women has been raped or assaulted in some way. Let's just say it's 1 in 4. Even if it's 1 in 10, doesn't matter. But let's pretend it's 1 in 4. And I said to you as a man, hey, same stats for men. Let's pretend, okay? So whatever age you are, at some point, before you leave the planet, there's a 25% chance you're going to be raped or assaulted sexually. Yeah, as a dude, you'd be like, fuck, that's not cool. I don't want that. I'm staying in the house more Netflix for me. I don't want to go out there, So imagine it, and we don't, because it's hard for us because we're men. I'm not, I go around, I feel safe. And because, guess what? We're bigger and stronger, and they're less big and less strong. It makes sense that they're worried about getting raped. Happens a lot. A lot more than we think, that's for sure. A lot more than we care to think about. And I think as men, it's up to us to bring that realization, that reality into our awareness and just be more conscious with our interactions with women. And really, I think it comes down to like being present with the energy of women. Like I've been teaching for years, if you see a woman, you find her attractive, have the courage to go over there and express yourself authentically and, talk to her. But we need to be really reading the energy of these women, because if a woman is open and happy and whatever, and go talk to her. But if you could tell a woman is like traumatized, in a really bad space, really closed off body language, and she's really signaling like, no, probably don't talk to that girl. You know what I'm saying? And if you do, and she's like closed, like really don't push it, leave her the fuck alone. You know what I mean? Like just to have that awareness again, like, is she talking to you because she feels like she has no choice, or is she actually really open and wants to talk to you? Like we have to work on these skills. Like they're really important, and I'm realizing they're even more important than I thought they were before. Before it was just like, okay, if you want to pick up a chick, you got to learn this and this and this and how to connect and flirt with her and be aware, blah blah blah. But now it's just like, no, if you're a big dude and you're talking to a girl, they don't want to reject you in a brutal way, like, hey, fuck off, Louis, like, because even if they don't want to talk to you, because there's a chance you could flip out on them and physically hurt them in some way. And so again, we are bigger, we are stronger, and that's the reason we're able to, that's partly why this is happening, right? And also because men are extremely sexually frustrated, and we're not being educated with the most basic principles of like attraction and dating and asking and taking chance, all these really, really core things, which I've been teaching men for a decade. That should be taught in schools, by the way, and isn't, by the way, on purpose, so that this trauma is going around. So men are so frustrated sexually that they'll just lose their shit and do horrific things, including rape and sometimes getting a gun and going ape shit. Yeah. So that is part of the control system, if you ask me. I don't think it's a coincidence. They want everybody frustrated and angry and fighting each other. That's another topic. So yeah, so I just feel like I wasn't really aware of this issue, and yeah, I really want to be conscious with it, and I have a lot of compassion for any women who've been raped or assaulted in any way. And holy fuck, like it's horrible. I can't imagine that. Yeah. I just it's I'm speechless. Really, I'm really speechless. I got nothing. It's just I have a lot of compassion for every single one, but no more or less compassion than I have for all the men out there, also who've been through horrific stuff. So let's take that into our hearts, guys, and let's have some compassion for the women out there. Even if they're like really traumatized, and even if they're a little bit confused or a little bit angry at men or whatever, man, we all have trauma. Every single one of us has trauma. So let's just acknowledge that and have compassion for all other beings that are in trauma. We're all in a process. Yeah. Even if someone is being a dick to you or someone rejects you or treats you like shit, whatever, they're in a process. We're all in a healing process. You could say it's just called being human. It's a process. We should get shirts that just say, I'm in a process. I'm going to make that. It's funny, but it's true. It's really true. So I'm in a process. I've been a dick and insensitive and not thought about these issues. I'm sure I've made women uncomfortable before by hitting on them and not realizing like they're not really that interested and just being like, hey, I could keep going. Like, yeah, of course. Not coming from a bad place. Not coming from a place of like, I want to make women feel better. No, I wanted to meet girls when I was horny and, I was doing my thing. I was trying to meet some chicks. We're all where we're at in our development, and wherever you're at is where you're at. And I respect your journey as a human being. But let's bring some consciousness and awareness into our journey and just treat each other with respect and help each other heal. I think that's all we can do. And I think we have to start doing that if we're really going to get things moving in the direction that I think things are already going in many ways in a positive direction. I thought a lot of people are waking up, but we need to wake up quicker. And I think healing and love and unity and respect, I think those are the ways forward for humanity. So that's it. That's basically what I wanted to say. I think I'm pretty inspired now to talk about my healing journey. So I think that video is coming up soon. And any related links or things I want to share about this video, I'll put in the description below. So thanks for being here. And if you're new, subscribe, because there's going to be lots of crazy fun videos too. It's not always really heavy stuff like this. It's going to be fun, I promise. Okay. I love you guys. Really. And see you later. Peace.